Okay, good morning, everyone. We are back in the book of Matthew today. If you all want to turn to Matthew chapter 12. We're nearing the halfway point in this sermon series as we look at the life of Jesus, the teachings of Jesus, as recorded by one of his disciples. It's been about a month since we were last in Matthew, so I thought before I pound the pulpit and call y'all a brood of vipers, that maybe we should look at the context and tiny bit. Chapter 11. In chapter 11, we saw John the Baptist in prison and struggling with his faith. Right? He sent one of his disciples to Jesus to ask, okay, are you actually the Messiah, or should we expect someone else? And Jesus told that disciple to go and tell John what you see here. Right? The lame walk, the dead are raised, the blind see, the gospel is preached to the poor. Jesus was actually quoting several verses in Isaiah here, reminding John of what the Christ was prophesied to be, calling John to take his eyes off of his own expectations and onto who the Christ really was. Jesus then condemns the towns in which he did many of his miracles, yet who did not believe. He told them if Gentile cities were given these signs, they would have repented and turned to God. And this serves as a warning to us. Just because we come to church, just because we hear the words of salvation, right, that does not replace a personal faith and walk with God. And then at the beginning of chapter 12, we have Jesus absolutely embarrass the Pharisees, exposing their hypocrisy, clear as day for all to see. They were condemning Jesus, speaking up against Jesus for healing a man on the Sabbath day, for casting a demon out of a man on the Lord's day. And Jesus just looks at them. If one of your sheep fell into a pit during the Sabbath, you would not hesitate to pull it out. How much more valuable is man than a sheep? And the Pharisees were like, man, we cannot win a debate with this guy. We cannot deny that he is doing these miracles, these amazing things. So what can we do? And they began to attack him personally. They said, Yes, he's doing these miracles, but it is by the power of Beelzebub he is doing these miracles. He's in league with Satan, right? By the power of Satan, he does it. He's a witch. He casts out demons in Beelzebub's name. He heals with demonic power. He turned me into a newt. I got better. False and foolish accusations, right? Lying. And again, Jesus is just shaking his head. Are you serious? Are you serious right now? Your arguments do not even make sense. Right? A house divided against itself cannot stand. An army that fights against itself loses. You cannot deny my works. So you deny God? You call the very acts of God acts of the devil, blaspheming the Holy Spirit. This is not something that can be forgiven, neither by Old Testament sacrifices nor by the sacrifice to come. Which brings us to verse 33. Make a tree good, and its fruit will be good. Or make a tree bad, and its fruit will be bad. For a tree is recognized by its fruit. You brood of vipers, how can you who are evil say anything good? For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in him, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in him. But I tell you, everyone will have to give an account on the day of judgment for every empty word they have spoken. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. This is our passage today. I want to pull three things out of this passage. First, we are going to talk about the fruit tree. Then we are going to talk about a full storage room. And finally, we're going to look at empty words. All of which are about the human heart. First off, we have the tree being known by its fruit. This is fairly straightforward. Jesus has actually already used this metaphor back in chapter 7. There, he was preaching to his disciples, to his followers, warning them about false prophets and teachers. Here, Jesus is talking to those false prophets and teachers. Right? Again, the context here, the Pharisees were condemning Jesus for healing on the Sabbath. They were condemning him for casting out a demon on the Sabbath. They're calling for his death. Right? Accusing Jesus of working in the power of Satan, that's sorcery. That's witchcraft. Right? The penalty for that is death. So Jesus stands before them and invites those gathered. Let us compare fruit. We all know a good tree produces good fruit. So, here we are on this Sabbath day. I have healed and restored life. You are calling for death. I am teaching about God. You are plotting murder. And now you falsely accuse me of sin. What does our fruit say about us? As I was writing this, God brought Proverbs chapter 6 to my mind. This is an easy one to remember. Proverbs 6, there are 6 things the Lord hates. No, 7 that are detestable to him. Haughty eyes, right? Pride. A lying tongue. Hands that shed innocent blood. A heart that devises wicked schemes. Feet that are quick to rush into evil. A false witness who pours out lies. And a person who stirs up conflict in the community. Like if Jesus had the Bible app, he would have brought out this passage and been, yeah, none of this seems to apply to me. What about you guys? What do you see yourselves checking any of these boxes? You know what? Jesus wouldn't have done that. I mean, A, he'd have this passage memorized. B, he was actually going in a different direction here. And C, Jesus is done being subtle with these false teachers. Okay? I'm saying you're a bad tree. Do you guys get this? Do you guys follow me here? You know, let me say it a different way. You are a brood of vipers, poisonous snakes. All that comes out of your mouth is venom because you are full of evil. Right? Jesus is not pulling his punches here. He is ripping into the Pharisees. Right? This is not the meek and mild Jesus we tell the preschoolers about. Right? But I mean, again, the context, they're accusing him of being possessed not just by a demon, but by Satan himself. They're trying to rally the crowd on these accusations against him. They are supposed to be the leaders of the people, and they're leading the people away from God. They're leading the people into evil. I believe Jesus is angry here. But I do not believe Jesus loses his temper. I am not saying that. I'm saying there is a time where enough is enough, and stern words are needed. What you said is inexcusable. And there's no room for backpedaling, as Jesus now declares that it is out of the overflow of the heart that the mouth speaks. Jesus compares the heart to a treasury, right? A chest, right? The good stored up inside of you. Think of it like a storage room, right? They didn't have closets or things back then. They would have an actual chest, right, that they would keep their valuables in, right? We have safety deposit boxes, or, I have an attic. You keep things, right? You keep important things. We have Aaron's wedding dress tucked away, my old comic books, the important stuff, right? Jesus compares the heart to a treasury. Your heart is a treasury. That is where your words come from, right? So if that inner storage room, if that is full of bitterness, well, bitterness is all you're going to be able to pull out of there. You have a dirty mouth? You keep letting lewd comments slip out? Well, that's just an indication of what's in there. You see someone prosper, something good happens. You reach in there and you find, it's not fair. Why can't things work out like that for us? Right? Where you could have joy for your brother and sister. Instead, all you find is envy and greed. This is particularly true. This is particularly seen when you're caught off guard. The classic illustration is picture a cup filled to the brim. It's got that little bubble on the top because of elasticity or what have you. Is that the right word? Surface tension. There we go. Okay, see, you're picturing this with me, right? You can see it. If that cup is filled with sweet water, no matter how violently it is shaken, only sweetness will come out. But if a cup is filled with bitter water, no matter how lightly it is jostled, only bitterness will come out. Your words reveal your heart. And as a little bonus point, 2.5, if you will, just like your safety deposit box at the bank, you're the one who puts things in here. Do you want to be more grateful? Put gratefulness in there. Every evening, make a list of things you're grateful for. Add to that list night after night. Memorize and study verses about thankfulness. Right? Put in the work to clean out that room and fill your treasury with actual treasure. And stop putting garbage in there. Through your eyes, through your ears, through your self-talk. Whatever you need to work on, first, you need to admit it's in there. Right? That's where it's coming from. And then through prayer and effort, right, through God's work and your own work, you need to replace evil with goodness. Back to the passage here. You can judge a tree by its fruit. You can judge a man by his words. James echoes this in James chapter 3. As he says, anyone who can control his tongue is a perfect man. Back in chapter 5, Jesus said, if you call your brother a fool, you are just as guilty as a murderer and in danger of the fires of hell. Because this is coming from your heart. Right? These are warnings to us to pay attention to our words. Right? What's slipping out when I haven't gotten enough rest and we're out of coffee and I missed lunch? I tell you the truth. Nothing can slip out unless it's already in there. Words are powerful. Words are meaningful. Jesus now turns his attention to the words. Right? Telling us everyone will have to give an account on the day of judgment for every empty word they have spoken. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. And by the way, Jesus is telling us this. Okay, up until this point, Jesus, every time he said the word you in the Greek, it was plural, meaning all y'all Pharisees. But we get to this verse, and Jesus has switched to the singular. He is making this personal. This is each and every one of you who hears this, who reads this. You need to examine your heart. You need to examine your words. By your words, you will be justified or condemned. What words, though? Okay, is Jesus saying here, I just need to say sorry, and we're good? Whether I mean it or not, we just need to say the words. Actually, the meaning here is the exact opposite of that. The word empty there, in your translation, it may be careless or idle. The Greek word is argos, and it means idle. It means inactive, something that is supposed to be moving but isn't. Right? This word is used in the parable Jesus tells of a man who owned a vineyard. Right? And he went to town and he found all these men argos. Right? They're there doing nothing. And he's like, hey, come work in my vineyard with me. Right? They're doing nothing. Another verse with this word is James chapter 2, where faith without words is dead. Faith without deeds. Faith without deeds is dead. Faith without deeds is argos. It is idle. It is useless. It is empty. You will be judged on the words you spoke but did not mean. You said you were sorry, but everybody watching clearly knows that you're not. You said God was number one in your life. Well, let's look at how you actually lived. Let's look at your deeds. Let's look at your actions. You said the children's ministry is so important. Well, did you act on that? Were you willing to volunteer? Or were you willing to consistently give a little bit more so that the church could hire someone? Or will you pray? And not just a quick, sentence before bed, God, please provide for the children's ministry, but get down on your knees, spend 10, 20, 30 minutes calling out to God, pleading with God, praying for the volunteers we do have by name, praying for the children, praying that God would raise up leaders in our congregation. Or were your words empty, idle, inactive? I know I will be judged. Because far too many times in my life, I have run into someone running errands, out and about at the grocery store, and we chat for a little bit, and they tell me something, and I'm like, man, I'll pray for you. And I meant it at the moment. I did. But then I kept about my errands. I was running around. I got back home and started putting things away. And honestly, by that time, I forgot I even ran into that person. It's why I have tried to make it a habit of, when people are talking to me, something like that comes out, I pull out my phone and I send myself an email because I want to remember this. I email myself far more than anyone else emails me. Because I don't want to speak empty words. I don't want to say things I don't mean. I know I will. I'm not the perfect man James was talking about. But with the Holy Spirit, I believe I can be better today than I was yesterday. I believe we can each be a little bit more like Jesus today than we were yesterday. But we need to do our part. Examine your heart. Listen to the words that are slipping out. Be intentional with what you put in here and intentional in what you say. I want to end with a story about how this played out in my life. A number of years ago, back when, according to my children, dinosaurs roamed the earth, I was in Bible college. And part of Bible college, each semester, is you would go and do ministry for a church in Swift Current, right, which was about 40 minutes away. However, I interned over the summer, actually at Kinnaird Park Church over in Castlegar there. And so I did my work, I did my assignments, I didn't need to do that. But my one buddy was struggling to get a paper done, and he's like, hey, Adam, can you go cover for me? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so I went to the Salvation Army to help with their children's ministry. It was chaos. Oh my goodness. It was crazy. They were, honestly, they were trying to do so much, right? They're dealing with a lot of inner city kids. And the parents are just, yes, please, right? And the kids everywhere, they're trying to reach out to the teens. They're trying to love on and support them. They're trying to provide meals. They're trying to provide homework support. This is in addition to running the food bank and the thrift store and a whole church. And I remember, I vividly remember, I was driving away from there, just leaving south of Swift Current, right? I was just coming up to the train tracks. Hockey arena right behind me. And I just said, man, those guys need help. And as soon as the words were out of my mouth, God's words were in my heart. He said, yeah. And I pointed that out to you for a reason. Okay. And so myself and 3 friends, for the next 2 years at Bible college, every Tuesday, we went to help with their children's ministry. And, we got a little bit of credit for that. That was an assignment thing. And then we went back every Friday to run their youth ministry. And then we went back every Sunday to help with their Sunday school. We met every morning before class to pray for that church, for those kids, for some of those families. What does it look like to not have empty words? I mean, that might be an extreme example, but guys, it's simply doing what you say you're going to do for the glory of God. Right? I mean, elsewhere, Jesus says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Right? There should be no reason for a believer to have to swear an oath on anything. Right? You say you're going to do something, you do something. Store up goodness in your heart and pull it out to give to people. And hopefully one day you will stand before God and be justified, able to say, I wanted to help. I praise you, God, for the opportunities you gave me to do so. We invite the worship team back up for our closing song. Church family, let me send you away with the words from Psalm 119. May we all stay on the path of purity by living according to his word. May we seek him with all our heart and not stray from his commands. Let us store up his word in our hearts that we might not sin against him. Praise be to the Lord who teaches us his decrees. Go in peace.